Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 752. My opponent started off with e4 and I went with c5, the Sicilian defense. And let's see, he continued with knight f3, the normal move. And I went e6. I played the Sicilian recently, but it was a different line. I wanted to try out the e6 Sicilian, and particularly the Khan variation again. He went with d4, the main move I took. He took. And now I played a6, which is the characteristic move of the Khan Sicilian. And now you can see the move that he played, bishop f4, is not on the list of playable moves here. And in fact, it falls for a tactic if you want to. Well, I'll give you another chance to think about it, but you can start thinking about it now. What tactic does that fall for? Let's see. The main moves here are bishop to d3. Very reasonable move, defending the center and not committing the c-pawn. So the option of playing c5 is still there, c4 rather, going for a Maroczy bind. Second choice here is knight to c3, just a normal developing move, but one that blocks the c-pawn. And then the third choice, which I have seen occasionally, is just c4 directly. Just going for that Maroczy bind setup immediately. I guess bishop d3 is the most flexible of those choices, and the bishop is well placed on d3. Sometimes that pawn can come forward to e5, unleashing the bishop on that diagonal. So that's the top choice there. Anyway, bishop f4 is a blunder, and also we're out of the opening book. But so let's take some time now and pause the video and see if you can figure out how black can exploit that mistake. Okay, I am going to give the answer away. The best move here for black is to play e5, forking the two pieces, and that forces the bishop to take, and then there's this check, and it's a fork. So that just wins a piece. So bishop f4 is just a losing move. Unfortunately, I didn't spot this idea during the game. I played d6, and he went e5. And this actually gives me a second chance to play the same tactic. And I start out okay. I take the pawn. He plays here. And yeah, it's completely set up for this tactic, queen to a4 check, and I didn't spot it. So that's kind of a shame. You know, I was looking at this, the times on this, because my opponent was moving real fast the whole game. But he actually had slowed down. For example, you know, he was taking about 1 or 2 seconds a move for the first few moves, but before playing this bishop f4 move, which is a losing move, he actually took 13 seconds there. I'm not sure what he was thinking about, but obviously not the tactics. And I took 19 seconds on my reply. So I was spending some time thinking, just not noticing the tactics. So I was thinking about the wrong things. Anyway, let's go forward in the game. I went d6, he went e5. I took, he took. And again, I spent a little bit of time here, 9 seconds. I hadn't automatically computed a response and just played it. I paused to think here. But it's obviously, this tactic is still on the board, queen a5 check. Clearly the winning move there. Anyway, I went knight c6. And so my opponent has escaped unpunished, even though he should have lost the game right out of the opening. But, well, it leads to a game we can talk about some more. Knight takes c6. And that leads to the trade of queens. So maybe that's why he stopped to think there a little bit before taking. Because he wasn't sure if there was a good way to avoid the trade of queens. But it was hard to find an alternative. The knight was forking the bishop and his knight. So it was probably necessary. And then I took back. And I thought this might be, well, it is an okay position for black, but it's not better for black. White is still a little bit better here. According to the chess engine, white has, I think, an easier path for development somehow. My pieces, well, this pawn is a bit weak. I thought these open lines might help my bishops get out quickly, but that doesn't seem to happen. Anyway, he goes knight c3, and I thought, you know, maybe I could exploit his king being in the center, but yeah, it doesn't seem that I can do a whole lot. I get one tempo on the bishop. And well, he goes bishop to d4, which gives me a second tempo. The chess engine recommends just dropping the bishop back to g3 like that. But when it goes to d4, then I can kick it again. And now he went bishop to e3. Yeah, he's got to drop the bishop back. And here, looks like the most effective developing move for me is bishop to e6. That's the chess engine recommendation. Yeah, if you think about this move, it does a couple things. It not only develops the bishop, but it also allows this rook to come into the game. And maybe I could even castle queenside if it seems warranted. So this move, bishop b4, it's a developing move, but it just develops that one piece and does nothing else. So that's a good example of where you should look for moves that do more than one thing. You know, you only get one move each turn, so you should try and make that move count. Anyway, bishop to c4 was played. I went knight to e7. He went king to e2. And so we're coming up on the critical portion of the game. I had this idea of just taking off his knight, damaging his pawn structure. He hasn't bothered to defend the knight. And then coming in with my knight to d5, where if he exchanges it, which seems likely, then you know, I would have a good pawn structure with center control. So this seemed like a good sequence to me. Yeah, let's see. I thought for 15 seconds before playing that. And his answer is forced, so he doesn't really have to think here. And then knight d5 was my follow-up, so I played that quickly. And then his next move is another blunder, which I think this one is kind of unaccountable. He took 7 seconds, which is not a huge amount of time, although it's more than how he spent more time than he spent on the other moves. And you know, it's obvious that I'm threatening to take on c3. So I think that the most natural move, if you're going to move quickly, would be to defend with bishop d2, and the chess engine still rates this position as about even. So this would be fine, and it would be a long game from here. He's not obliged to take this knight, so that retreating move with his bishop seems like a good response. You know, I can develop my bishop here, and well, you know, it would be a game. That comes with the threat of knight here check, hitting his bishop, but he can just drop his bishop back, so it's defended. And you know, I don't think a whole lot will come out of that. And anyway, yeah, the chess engine's evaluation is it's about even. But instead he played rook h to d1. So this time I spotted the tactic. So I missed the first one, but, well, I'd already been planning to take on c3, so that's why it was not hard to find this one. And yeah, it just loses the exchange. And I am winning from here, although he has... it takes me a little bit of time to unwind. These bishops are actually pretty strong on the board. Let's see, he went with... oh, he took. I went bishop at f5. I'm trying to get my pieces off the back rank. And he went with bishop to b6. So he came in here. You know, he might have considered just going directly to this square. Bishop to c5. You look at this, my king has no moves. And, you know, he's got me kind of boxed in. It would take a little bit of maneuvering. I mean, I'm still winning here just by material, and I can slowly unwind, but he can make my job difficult and maybe pose some problems and try and well, try and force me into a mistake of some kind. He just needs one good fork to pick up you know, a rook for one of the bishops or something like that, and he's back in the game. And of course that could always happen. Anyway, he went bishop b6, which I would say it's not yet a mistake. But it does let me grab another pawn here. Well, the move I suggested also would give up the pawn. I mean, he could have just defended that pawn too. Let's see, he went rook d2, hitting my bishop, chasing me back to a4. And then he played this bishop c7 move. And I think this is an outright mistake as well. The thing is, bishop a4 came with a threat of sorts, which is to play bishop to b5. And just force the exchange of that light squared bishop because of the pin, because of where his king is located. So the chess engine move here is to play king e1, just get the king off of that diagonal so he can preserve the bishop, because that's really his only hope of getting a kind of playable position and some counterplay in this game. Take advantage of the fact that he has the bishop pair and I don't, and those bishops can control a lot of squares. Now, I hadn't spotted this idea yet, and obviously he hadn't spotted it either. He was playing with his other bishop, bishop c7, so I kicked it with my rook, rook to c8, and he went bishop d6. And now he's got these bishops set up once again guarding my escape squares. And, well, I could come here, but then he's got some kind of discovered check. Maybe he can get some, pick up something, some material with that. A pawn at least. So seems like things are a bit awkward for me. And then I spotted this move, bishop b5. So this is, I hadn't really planned on that move, but I spotted it here, and he hadn't done anything to prevent it. And now with that second bishop off, this is a straightforward win. Let's just step through these moves. This actually, in spite of the fact that it was not a very long game time-wise, it was a fair number of moves here. He was just slamming out those moves quickly. Oh, he actually paused to think there to see if I guess he could avoid the trade. But anyway, going for the endgame with just a rook versus a bishop is not only an easy way to win, but it's also, it helps me activate my last piece. There's no way he can stop that piece from getting into the game now. So kind of a dual purpose there. So I get my king to a good square. I bring my rook to the center and put some pressure on his bishop. And all my pawns are already on light squares. I was trying to push the queenside pawns forward here and make a passed pawn. And he didn't do anything about that. Although he came over with his king to block it, and then eventually he took that pawn with the bishop. But, well, this allows me to go to a very simple king and pawn endgame that's winning. So that's the advantage of the rook. One advantage of the rook versus the bishop is you can often trade the rook for a bishop and get a favorable endgame. Sometimes you trade the rook for a bishop and a pawn and get a winning endgame that way when the pawns are even. But when the pawns are already ahead, I don't even need to pick up a pawn. So he played on a few moves. He stopped just short of letting me get a queen. Yeah, I played f2 there, and he resigned, so I didn't get a queen. But anyway, I thought that was a cute game. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and hope you spotted that tactic. And I'll see you again next time. Bye.